This is the solution for the 6BSL. The 6BSL consists of 2 top crossing bands, 1, 2, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 outside bands. I'll now take the ring apart and identify the bands. It's very easy to identify these bands because you're going to have 2 sets of rings. The 2 top crossing bands are in my right hand, and the 4 outside bands are going to be in my left hand. The top bands, the way you identify those is you run your finger across the top. The very top band is going to be completely smooth. The band that crosses underneath, when you run your finger across, you're going to feel this dimple that's right here in the middle of the band. I'm going to let these go and I'm going to identify the outside bands. So the outside bands each have sort of an angle to them. And I got lucky here because they're in the right position. I've got 2 that go in one direction and 2 that go in the opposite direction. This is the exact position you want the rings in when you solve them. This is the next step. And you want to make sure that you've got the widest bands on the outside and then the smaller bands, the smaller angles are on the inside. If they're switched, they're not going to be in the right position to solve the puzzle. So now what I want to do is I want to take the top bands, I'm going to hold them in my right hand, and I'm going to let these 4 outside bands drop to the same side. If I separate them and let them drop, some to this side and some to that side, they're not going to be in the correct position. I also always like to work with the puzzle face down because gravity is going to hold these rings into the position I need them in. So I'm going to turn this around, and I prefer to have the dimpled band in my right hand. So I'm going to turn the ring here. And you can see this smooth band is going to be in my left. It's pretty stationary, it doesn't do anything. It's this dimpled band that does the work. So if you look at the angle it makes, it's going to kind of hold these outside bands, these 4 outside bands. I'm going to turn the dimpled band clockwise, and then I'm just going to rest it right into that smooth band. So you can see what happens is it makes a really nice, clean figure 8. And the band is nice and smooth. You can do it wrong and you can still create a figure 8, but you'll know it's wrong because it's not going to be nice and smooth like this. So the next step, what we want to do is we need to identify the outermost band. By working with that dimpled band in my right hand, 9 times out of 10 the outermost band ends up being this right band right here. But it's going to be some trial and error. You can kind of see that it's a little bit of a wider angle here than this band. You can see this is kind of a smaller, this part kind of is lower over here, and that means that this is the widest angle. So I'm going to take the figure 8, again I'm going to work with the ring face down, take that widest most band, and this design is very tricky because this space is very small. So you just kind of get it into the circle there, into the figure 8, make sure it gets on top of the other bands, turn it inside, and fold it down, and it's real smooth. I'm going to turn the whole ring around and get this outermost band, again making sure it's on top of the others, a little bit loose in there. Turn it into the figure 8. You can see what I'm doing here, I'm letting this band loose because that's going to make that hole just a little bit bigger for me to get this band into, and then I'm going to kind of close it. You got to be very careful because these bands, you don't want to force it, you don't want to push it because you can bend the bands. Okay, now I'm going to turn the whole ring around, and here's where it gets really tricky because you can see this space is really super tight. So again, I'm going to let them loose a little bit. I kind of got to pull this ring down so that I can get the band that I'm working with on top of it. You gotta just kind of work with it a little bit here. Right now it's not, that band is not on the top of it, so I've kind of got to jiggle it a little bit. And then I might just leave it like that and turn it, and when I'm getting this band into place, I'm going to jiggle it into place. Very tricky because it's so tight. You can see how loose I'm letting the bands. They could fall apart any moment. So I know it's in the right place, and I'm just going to gently put it together And there you have the solution for the 6BSL.